David Lister, how are you?
I'm awake, doing well. Now,
Amen.
I went to bed early so I could get up.
Oh,
So,
smart man. Well, thank you. Thank you for being with us at such an early hour on a Saturday morning for you, the 30th of May here in America, 31st of May where you are. So May is running out very quickly. Jay from Southern California, not too far from my house. How are you, brother?
Well, it's 91 degrees, so that's troubling for Southern California. That's way too hot. In fact, if anyone has better weather, we'll be happy to exchange it right now.
Amen. I think there's better weather up in the northern central coast. So
Yeah, there.
yeah, you'll be happy. You'll be happy.
Yes, I'm heading there this weekend, so I can't wait.
With godly envy, Jay, with godly envy. But enjoy. It'll be a good time. And take your dad with you. So it'll be a lot of fun. So praise the Lord. It is Saturday morning on the other side of the world. Davey in Australia, how are you, brother?
Yeah, doing good, thanks, and good to be with you all again today.
Praise the Lord. Well, God bless you and the believers there. And we want to welcome all those who are watching us live and those who will watch us not live later on demand. And this video will be up and you can watch it, episode 236. So we welcome those who are catching up with us, I guess, catching up with us live on different platforms from Vimeo to Rumble. And by the way, Rumble, send the questions in. David will be taking the questions in. Are we going to phone Jacob in for that, David? You know
I think
that old show.
I just pull up and get him up again.
Yeah, remember that old show? Can I phone a friend? I think it's something like that.
Yeah.
If you get a tough questions, you can phone a friend, and we'll be taking questions from Rumble. So please sign up for that on Backstage. When we go backstage, Rumble, we're taking questions in as usual. We're also on X. We're also on Telegram. We're also on RTN. We're also on Memorial.tv, memorialtv.org. Am I missing anything? Jay, can you help me out?
Vimeo,
There's a
Vimeo,
Vimeo.
Vimeo, Facebook.
X. Oh, Facebook. That's right. How could I forget our wonderful believers in Facebook? We're YouTube as well, but Facebook and YouTube, we won't be on Backstage with you guys, so you have to jump over to X, Rumble, Memorial TV, things like that, so you can catch up with us, especially on the Backstage with the questions and answers, and we get to talk about a few things there that we're not allowed to say on other platforms. So very good. David Lister, can you give us an update, not only on Jacob, but what's going on there, not only the places you've been, Philippines, Thailand, and what's going on with the prison ministry there?
Okay. Yeah. Let's start with Jacob. When I picked up Jacob from the airport in Thailand, got him to Rumrangarda Hospital. It's one of the best hospitals, private hospital. I was amazed. He was in, we took him to the emergency room. He saw a doctor within 5 minutes. As I sat there waiting on him, that was usually about the wait time for the hospital for people seeing doctors. So I was quite amazed. So it's a good hospital. Jacob was concerned about the ability for language, but his doctor was great and everything. He laid out his concerns like a doctor to another doctor, and she was very thankful for this, said it made her job easy and everything. And then after he got the results and everything, Jacob went over the results, gave her a prognosis, and the doctor confirmed his prognosis. And I said, that's the first time I ever seen a doctor prognosis confirm. It was the word, confirm the prognosis of the patient. So he was in full form that day and everything, but he was his legs were very blown up, and she could feel heat and everything like that. But she gave him a pretty good antibiotic, and his legs look a lot better. The swelling in the feet has gone down. There's still some redness and everything. He is trying to get right now, keeping his feet up and doing his work from the bed. So please pray for him. He still has some long trips to go, so hopefully he'll be okay, because he can get his feet up on the plane, things like that. That would be a good thing. So, but please continue to pray for him as he gets through this and stuff. So, it was a bit scary. I hadn't seen him that bad in a while, So it was more. It was even swelling on the left leg and pain in the left leg, which was unusual.
That is
He's
unusual. Yeah, I've been
never
with them.
complained about
It's,
that.
yeah, you're right. So is Jacob going to get a job there, David, as a medical doctor there?
Well, I
Kidding
was
aside.
kind of wondering if he was trying to start a second career,
Yeah,
but
it's
you know,
I know he knows a lot, and I probably could tell a few things, a thing or two about a thing or two to doctors, and but I'm glad he's okay. Thank you for that.
but
What about the
he
rest of the?
really, as I listened to him, Margot, he really understood his own body and his own sickness and everything like that. Which, like the doctor said rightly, you've made my job a lot easier.
Praise
You know,
God.
thing. So, and this new antibiotic, which Jacob hadn't used before, it really did help pretty quickly. So, we got him up here in Chiang Mai now. He's still working every day, but is keeping his feet up. So,
Man, praise the Lord.
yeah,
And we're so glad. And then there's
yeah,
so many of you were praying for him. Thank you so much for your prayers. And people were calling me from all over the world, literally,
yep,
in regards to Jacob. So he's greatly beloved, and I hope he understands that. He's greatly beloved by a lot of people throughout the world. He's made a difference in their lives. So I hope he understands how much he means to a lot of people, means a lot to us, and means a lot to a lot of people. So we want him well, and I think people are concerned, concerned about his travels and how much and all that stuff. So I hope he takes that into consideration, that he's greatly beloved and he's missed in
yeah,
different places. So, David, a little bit more about the missions, what you guys been doing. I know it's a
yeah.
bit interrupted, but it was good.
Well, I can just say, look, the missions that our supporters are supporting and praying for are expanding. We have new opportunities in the Philippines. Another church that's affiliated with Moriel Canada got to meet the elders and the pastors there. Spent about 5 hours with them. Really enjoyed talking with them. He's a good man. This is actually, they're doing a second church plant. They have another one, which the pastor that I met, his grandson is running the other church.
Wow.
So pretty solid. He he comes out of the Baptist tradition. I don't think he's stuck in the old Southern Baptist stuff. He seemed very, very solid, and he was happy when I said I grew up in the Southern Baptist and stuff. So we got along pretty good anyway. So hopefully we can maybe you come over here later in the year or something, Marco. We can go visit them, things like that. It would be
Praise the
great.
Lord. Praise the Lord.
And, we have some new scholars coming on. Had them come to our hotel and had a good time. My wife and I talked with the kids for like 2 hours, answering questions of them, the scholars and everything. We call them the scholars because they're going. They've left the. They're going now on to college, and which is about $1,500 a year. We have 3 new ones coming on this year, and some getting ready to graduate. I think it's the last year, so it's going good. One young man brought me his grades. And so I looked at the bottom line. I didn't have my glasses. And I said, "Oh, it looks like straight A's." He goes, "Oh, no, that's my attendance record." So I said, "I didn't have my glasses, man." So, but his grades were good. And he's just was over the moon thankful for us. So that's going really good. And so we're happy to see the growth. We took the kids to Jollibee. A lot of kids, they just love it. It's like taking someone to Morton's here. It's just such a good thing. It's just a lot of fun. But anyway, that's good. Now, as far as we're expanding the amount of prisons we're getting into, and this has been really good. Where Scott Noble is our Thailand guy. He did earlier in the year a 1,400-mile trip around the country in his car, going from prison to prison to prison and getting in. And so now we're sending out about 250 prisons get tapes every month from Moriel. I forgot. I want to go back to Scholar. Jacob came out and did a teaching on a Christian view of education, which was a Christian perspective of education. It was really, really good. He's doing some of his best teaching, and I asked him to please redo it. And then second, he did a teaching up in Pittsburgh, and he said he's going to lengthen that one, and that one was really good. So he's doing some great teaching. So anyone that's going to Australia and New Zealand, yeah, I'm envious. I'd like to see those. But anyway, get them recorded. But so now we're sending tapes, 50 tapes out to 50 prisons in Thailand with Scott Noble and everything. And then Jay and I are going to be taping me and putting it into Thai. And then we're going to run it by Scott and his wife and see how well that does. Okay. I do know you have to watch out for idioms because they don't translate well. So you have to explain it a little bit. So anyway, I'll tell you about one place we met in the new prison. We had about 50 guys, and they were all there. There wasn't a Christian there. But if you understand prison, when you get in prison, they say, hey, there's something going on. Well, you just get out of your cell and you want to go. So they came, but they listened really well. This is the way a lot of the teachings start, when people come and then they become interested and then they hear the gospel. Well, we had the 50 guys and I was able to preach the gospel, but we had a bonus. It was all the new prison inmates will get a day to have x-ray for tuberculosis. So they put 150 to 200 more prisoners over there right next to us where I was preaching the gospel. And as I was asking questions, they were raising their hands too, about wanting to be free, about wanting to understand how life is and things like this. And so they got to hear it. So that was really good. So we're seeing growth. People are coming back. It's voluntary. You come back. So we're seeing that. And one of the best ones we got to go to is Chambori, which is a maximum security prison, 15 years minimum sentence there. Jacob taught, and our guys there are growing. And guess which they're asking now. Now, there was no Christians there. Now there's some really good ones, and the group is up to about 70 people. But they want to know, they asked to please teach on Balaam. That's a complicated subject, but that's what they wanted to know. And Jacob got the hay down out of the law for the sheep to eat. And he did a great job, even though they were most of them uneducated, but he did a good understanding of donkeys are men, so art. So that went really good. Really hopeful. We're seeing lots of our groups are increasing. So people are hearing the gospel, people are hearing teaching, and they're coming back. So please pray for those that are in bondage to the sin that have been imprisoned in Thailand. So that's going really good. So missions are going. Thank
Praise
you
the
all
Lord.
for supporting us and everything and supporting the missions. It's bearing fruit in these last days.
Very nice. Thank you, David. Appreciate it. Much prayer for Thailand and Philippines. Vietnam, we'll talk about another time. And I'm going to go over to JJ real quick. Update on our channels, podcasts, where people can find us.
Absolutely. So I have started the podcast. You'll see below the schedule for the first week of June, just coming up. And just want to remind everyone, if you haven't already, please go over to Moriel TV on Twitter and subscribe. We're growing nicely there. Also, want to remind you, Moriel Chapel. wonderful place where you can get all of the current lessons, along with special content that just appears there. We also have special content that appears only on Memorial TV. Another big one that I want to make sure, if you have not already, please, we've done a short on the film, and we've also done a trailer. Please make sure, if you have not already, liked that, but also share it with other people. Help us get the word out for this upcoming film. We are still working very diligently on it, trying to complete it, and your prayers are very much needed and desired for it. Want to thank you for it.
Let's catch up. David Lister, we'll start with you. Israel and Hamas, the war continues. 601 day ago today, depending where you are in the world, but 601 days ago here, there was the attack on the Jewish people, largest one since World War II. Over 1,200 Jews were killed, hostages taken, over 200 hostages. Some of them have been returned. Some of them still have not been returned. So there was a
58, right?
huge issue. Yeah, huge issue about it. And we don't know how many of them are alive yet, but the reality is it's been over 600 days. Enough is enough. And there is today a concerted effort by the United States, Israel, to have a ceasefire. So let's start there, David, with the ceasefire. Is it going to happen? Israel said yes. The U.S. says yes. Hamas still mulling over because it does require them to return the hostages, which is the sticky point that they don't want to do. But Israel's committed to the war. So this is not an end to the war against Hamas. I just want to make sure it's clear. It is not what the media tells you is a war against the people. It's not a war against the people. It's a war against Hamas. And obviously, if Hamas were to have an election today, many people would vote for them, and many people will have them still, although that might be changing. We'll talk about that in a moment. But David, give me your take on the war, the ceasefire, possibly 60 days, and the hostages.
Well, God willing, that those that are alive will be given back, but Israel will pay quite the price if they have to do it. It's like 100 to 1. You know, people that are on death row over in Israel or lifetime sentences are on the block to get it back. But Hamas is really in a catch-22 position, because if they give the hostages back, there's no reason for Israel to stop the war and prosecute these terrorists and finish the job. And I think the intention is to finish the job. They have to remove Hamas as an agent. As everybody knows, Hamas was the Muslim Brotherhood. After they killed Sadat, they escaped over into the Gaza. Okay, so these guys are longtime murderers, deceivers, killers, and they don't love the people. In fact, they see their sacrifice in death and in war as necessary for the destruction of Israel.
Yeah, they believe it's a religious mandate, right? This is a mandate, a spiritual mandate, divine mandate from Allah.
Yeah, and people are guaranteeing that Hamas will. They're promising by Allah that they will kill all the Jews one day. So I know that's not going to happen, so Allah must be a false god. So anyway, so it's a terrible situation, and like I've got to see the rest of the world's newscast while I'm over here, and let me tell you, every channel, every news station is constantly the poor genocide of the Hamas and Gazan people. The Palestinian people, so it's the rest of the world is just very much different. The way their newscast is 24/7 propaganda for the Palestinian people, which I'm still looking for one. I've never met one, but anyway.
Yeah, we'll go over to Jay. Jay, real quick, your thoughts on the ceasefire? I mean, obviously, there's some sticky points. It's only a partial hostage release. There's no end to the war, which this was Israel believes is necessary. A lot of people believe is necessary to remove Hamas, but it's also a partial release, meaning that they haven't quite worked out what exactly or when exactly they will be released and how many of them will be released. So there are some sticky points to that, but Trump was talking about it on his True Social. Many people on X, we got a deal, we got a deal. Netanyahu says, we got a deal. Hamas says, well, not so fast. Your thoughts?
I mean, how many of the hostages are still alive at this point? I mean, Israel will fight for the bones and the remains of their people.
Right.
And the Palestinians, are not the Palestinians, the Hamas will fight to the last man to continue the war against Israel, to, again, the propaganda war against Israel. So I'm not at all optimistic about a deal. And if it is a ceasefire, well, it's going to be a ceasefire not for long, because you cannot negotiate with terrorists. I wish we've learned this. There used to be presidents that said that, but every single time they negotiated with terrorists.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It keeps going on, and obviously there's lots to be said about how the Trump team has negotiated this. And I'm going to go to Davey. Davey, real quick, your thoughts on this possible ceasefire, hostage release, negotiations. It's Hamas at the moment who is not allowing the ceasefire to go on or to take place, and it's really frustrated Trump. He made it clear he's just really frustrated because they're unwilling to do so. Your thoughts?
Yep. Okay. My thoughts, start the stopwatch. We'll see how long it lasts, because it won't last. And we also know who's going to violate it, because it's always the same people who violate it all the time. It's just going to be, here we go again. Yeah, look, I'd be surprised if this ceasefire lasts more than a couple of days. It's kind of like it'll be, yeah, Hamas will violate it, I reckon, within the next, before we get to talk to you guys again next week. I reckon they will have already violated it.
Oh yeah, you're right, Davey. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like you can't underestimate the fact that is an absolute fact that everything you've said, who violates it first, how fast they violate it, they don't keep the word because it's Hamas. I mean, you're dealing with terrorists, like Jay said. There's no negotiation with terrorists. David Lister, the UN fails again, and I'll set up the scenario. You tell me your thoughts. The UN fails again. I guess that's part of their motto. We fail until we fail again. It's the fact that they did not want to work with Israel to feed the people in Gaza. Now, I'm not going to call them Palestinians because, as we talked about, have you ever met one? But obviously, the reality, these are human beings in Gaza. Obviously, they need food. There's never been a question about that. There's always been a question of their support of terrorism. But here, the UN did not want to give them food because they did not want to work with Israel. They did not want Israel to be part of that equation, which right away tells you something, smell a rat, a big one. Thousands of Palestinians, quote unquote, of Gazans go into this warehouse that was owned by the UN, the food program, and 4 people were killed. There were shots were heard. People were shooting in the air. 4 people were trampled. There was food there that's been sitting there for a long time. Israel had organized 4 different posts in Gaza to feed that many people. It wasn't going to work. But what it did do, it exposed Hamas to the people, that Hamas was hoarding this food, not allowing it. The UN had their warehouses full of food. You can see it on the video that we watched. And Hamas was selling many of the food items in their markets for outrageous prices. Israel opened up 4 different posts. They were giving away free food. People were angry at the fact that Hamas had been charging them, and here's getting them free food. And they were also very thankful to the U.S. and to Israel for giving them food, flour, bread. What a world when we've been told propaganda-wise that this was Israel's fault, Israel didn't want to get food to them, and they're starving them. Now we come to find out, it's what we all knew, that it was UN propaganda with Al Jazeera. But your thoughts?
Yeah, let's face it, the UN is in bed with Hamas. They're one and the same. They support this. They have the left-wing media constantly sending out propaganda for Hamas and how they're an oppressed people. Well, they're an armed force that hides among the civilians, and a civilian's death is of no concern to them. People starving is of no concern to Hamas. It was interesting that the UN actually, who managed this warehouse, is sort of doing the same thing that Puerto Rico did with the
Oh
stashing
yeah,
like
with the
that over
hurricane
there.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, they stash the supplies and keep it from the people, and somehow it leaks out when it's needed and money comes in. So we saw videos. Well, I saw them on X of people from Hamas saying, "Thank you, IDF. Thank you, Mr. Trump, for feeding us." But it's and even the UN, so they just left, creating a chaotic situation where people had to, hungry, starving people had to scramble instead of being an organized thing where you could feed all the people and protect them. No, that's not the UN. The UN acted in the character of Hamas, just allowing people to die and be used as a political. Oh, look what the IDF is doing. Look what the Trump is doing, starving all the people, not having them there. But when in reality is Mr. Trump wants to feed them, the IDF wants to feed them, but Hamas and the UN need that money to support terror and to support Hamas as an instrument against Israel. The hatred of just humanity should be apparent here. But like I said earlier, what I see constantly on every news channel across the world over here, which I have from China to whoever, it's always anti-Trump, anti-Israel bad guys. That's the news. And the only, if we have free media in America, of course, on X, a few other places, thankfully, that are telling the truth, and you're actually seeing, like I said, seeing people that were starving now have food, and they're thankful to the IDF. And hopefully they would be smart enough not to vote for Hamas if there is an election. But, I'm sure Hamas will be glad to guard the polling stations with armed men to make sure there's a free and true vote.
Well, that's just the kind of people Hamas really are. They're just very caring. I mean, they really care for their
Public
own
servants.
Yeah,
Yes.
completely. Yeah. Jay, your thoughts on this? We've been bombarded with the propaganda that this was Israel's fault. We got nations wanting to sanction Israel, come against Israel, Jews being attacked all over the world because, look, they're committing genocide. When in reality, tons of food available, being sold in the marketplace. Now we see the hypocrisy of it, but not only that, but the just inhumanity of, what's a couple of thousand people dead to Al Jazeera. They'll just put it out on their account and show the world how evil the people of Israel really are. That's what they say.
It's just the spirit of the age. I mean, there has to be hatred of the Jews because they're not allowed to have a place where they're safe. They're not allowed to have a homeland. They're not allowed to be indigenous. There's everything is set up as just something for the media to knock down. And this is biblical in the sense that, remember what Jesus said, "Woe to you when all men speak well of you, because so did they do of the false prophets."
Yeah.
And that's what the media does. It speaks well of false prophets. The Palestinians are as false as you can be. They're not from the Levant. They're actually from Arabia, Egypt, or Turkey. They're not indigenous to the land in which they occupy. And I mean occupation, imperial occupation. And yet the media time and time again will turn them into the victim. Again, the victim mentality that's been set up around the world. If you're a victim, you're the first one that everybody's going to rally around.
Yeah, absolutely. Davey, jump in.
Oh, Well, I must admit, earlier on in the week, look, my blood was boiling over Anthony Albanese. He needs to learn to keep his mouth closed. Um, I think it's probably the most disgusting, most anti-Semitic comments he's ever made. But yeah, him and Penny Wong on Monday. If anyone didn't know their true colours, they should by now. But totally condemning Israel. All they were doing is buying into the whole propaganda thing and basically promoting it. Netanyahu bad, Trump bad, and of course, no condemnation of Hamas. No telling what's really going on. You know, just total bias, total one-sidedness. Yeah, I was absolutely disgusted and livid. I think I've sent you the footage, Marco, but I'll send the rest of you the footage to have a look at. It's Albanese is a judgment on this country. Unfortunately, he's probably the most anti-Semitic leader we've ever had, and yeah, it's not good for us here. He's going to bring judgment. Hopefully, the judgment comes on him, and he's
Yes.
on the government and not on the people of this country. But look, the anti-Semitism here is shocking.
I have a novel idea for Albanese and everybody, Macron, everybody in the UN. Why don't you wonderful leaders of the world go to Gaza and politely ask Hamas, please release the hostages? Well, everyone will come to your aid and there'll be no more war. Go and talk to them face to face and see what happens.
Yeah. Hey, can I add another thing Israel Israel is not allowed to do to Jay's list? They're not allowed to prosecute a war and win a war against which they were inflicted to fight. So they're not allowed to win or prosecute a war against Hamas.
Yeah, I mean, it has been true. Israel hasn't won a war since 67 war. I mean, you can make a case that after that, it's just been one stall after another. It's just the inevitable thing. It's going to happen again, and it's going to happen again because they don't really, whether they have the spirit to do it in, which you can question some of the leaders in the past, or they're not allowed to do it, as you mentioned. You know, it's a combination of both things. But David, I'm going to stay with you. The threats of the nuclear Iranian sites. Netanyahu has threatened to strike. Trump said, let's not do it. Let's make a deal. He is for the deal. It hasn't happened yet. Iran's still mulling over it. He's given him some time. There's sometime in June that it's supposed to have a deadline, whether it's going to move or not. I don't know. But Trump did tell Netanyahu to, it's not appropriate right now. We need to make a deal. Obviously, the Qataris, the Saudis, the UAE leaders told Trump that they oppose a strike on Iran, and they are urging Iran to make this deal. But David, what are we looking at, and can that deal really stand if there's any?
Well, according to Islam, you can make a deal, but you have to break the deal before the time period. You can't make a deal for more than 10 years, and you have to break it at least by the halfway point or so. So in Islamic thought. So there may be a deal, but whether it comes to fruition, Trump is has created a new type of diplomacy. One, it's economic diplomacy. Let's bring people in, do economic deals with them, improve their lives. And so this will hopefully bring peace. I'm not sure that it will, maybe for a time period, but we know Qatar, United Arab guys, they're, the Shiites and the Sunnis are mortal enemies. There'll never be peace between them unless they have a common enemy, and that common enemy is the United States, the great Satan, and Israel. So at some point, they will turn on us in this deal.
No, absolutely. And I think that's exactly what it's being set up for, in my opinion. Now, Trump has been the kind of guy that's pragmatic. It's his pragmatism. He doesn't want a war. He ran on that. It's his political campaign, no new wars. he wants to make the deal. We'll get to Ukraine and Russia in a moment. He wants to get this deal done, obviously, to a certain degree of another, maybe be considered for the Nobel Peace Prize if he gets it. He wants to get the economies done, as we said earlier in many other podcasts that we've had. He's a business guy who is trying to make the best deal possible. And he doesn't want a new war. But Jay, I'm going to go to you. What kind of spirit are we dealing with? This is not, some Wall Street deal or to buy, Trump Tower or to get, simple title, simple fee title. This is the Middle East. This is principalities and rulers of darkness in high places that we're dealing with here.
I unfortunately, Trump has done some amazing things as far as geopolitical, but I think Trump suffers from wanting to be everyone's friend and suffers from people having a high opinion of him. And unfortunately, when you have a conflict like the Middle East, where it is ideological and deeply ingrained religiously, there cannot be compromise. You have to choose your ally carefully. And the ally to me is obvious. You have one that's truly democratic and you have one that is authoritarian. And unfortunately, he sides with the authoritarians to try to broker peace. You can't really compromise with authoritarians. They look upon it as weakness.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a quote from the Pope. If anybody want to comment on this, this is from Robert. What do we call them? Pope Bob? Bob. Yeah, Bob.
Pope Bob.
Yeah. It says, if you want peace, #peace. At least he knows how to do hashtags, which is interesting. Prepare institutions of peace. This doesn't refer only to the political institutions, whether national or international, but to the entire forum of institutions, educational, religious, social, all that are involved. And he's referring to, of course, a peace deal in the Middle East. He's all for peace.
I'm sure he would love to do that because it's a very great money-making scheme for NGOs and Catholic-backed or charities to get more money from the international community and governments, Jay, like he does everywhere.
You're not saying, Jay, come on. You're not.
Yes, I am.
That they're involved in some kind of grifting.
Oh, absolutely.
That's
what they.
Yeah, you're not saying that, are you? I mean, come on. That would make the Vatican a corrupt institution.
Yeah,
they're a bank. The Bible says don't have usury. Do the Catholics not charge interest from the Vatican Bank?
I think it's called the Holy Spirit Bank, Jay. It's a very spiritual thing.
He can release the monetary blessings from the Gulf. Oh yeah.
Yeah. But of course, this is a complete naivety, isn't it? The complete naivety that, obviously there is naivety, evilness, whatever you want to call it. This is not going to work in the Middle East. Like Jay, as you talked about, these are despots. These are totalitarian with the divine command to oppress anybody that stands against them. And you can make a deal, break it. You can have 4 wives. You can do all kinds of stuff. David Lister, back to you.
Yeah, well, don't we have one institution already that's leading the world and showing the way called the United Nations? Don't we have faith in that to make sure everything happens and there's peace everywhere?
Yeah. It never worked since 1948.
Never has.
Right. Around the same time Israel became a nation, this other body of disgust became an institution at the time. Can any deal stand with Islam?
No,
I mean, I have a video here. It's interesting of Muslim scholars saying, yeah, according to our law, you cannot make peace. It'll never deprive of, we'll never give peace. It'll always be deprived of the reality. We have to inform the enemy this treaty cannot come true. And then others are quoting different surahs. So it is.
I have a question real quick, Marco.
Yeah.
Since the 12th century, has the Catholic Church ever come out publicly and repented for the Crusades against the Muslim world?
No, they just rolled them all into Vatican II, and they said, oh, they too have God. They too have God. The Mohammedans, they have God too.
Oh, so that's quite a big jump from the 12th century to Vatican II, as far as let's have all out war on the Islamic world to, oh, they have the same God as us.
Mhm. Yeah,
And that
absolutely.
is in the catechism of that the Muslim are first among the believers, that the Catholic Church agrees with. So if they agree with a religion that says God has no son, well, that's not Christianity.
This sounds antichrist almost.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
that would work.
This is a verse from, this is one of the surahs in the Quran. So be not weak and ask not for peace from the enemies of Islam while you have the upper hand. Allah is
Yes.
with you and will never decrease the rewards of your good deeds. So
Yep.
I mean, if you really want to know the truth, just read what they say. And
Yeah.
it's curious. Al Jazeera, and this is what the propaganda is, they'll have a version of that in English and they'll have a version of that in Arabic. And so we get the English sanitized version of like, oh yeah, let's have peace. And then they'll have the Arabic version, which is, I don't speak Arabic, but I know people that do. And they said, oh yeah, they're saying there's not going to be a peace deal. And if there is, we're just going to break it because everybody knows that it's in the game. It's kind of like if you know, everybody knows it is only going to be a very short time until they regroup and present another problem. So that is
They're
what's going on.
commanded to break. They're commanded to break
Oh yeah,
peace,
yeah,
the treaty, and then also what you're seeing there and you're talking about is acceptable lying.
yeah.
That Islam have, but in other words, deception and warfare.
Yep.
All warfare,
Just to get the
is
upper hand.
waged by deception. So they're not doing anything that Sun Tzus didn't talk about a long time ago, and before Islam come on the scene. But certainly they had the same father in
And
the spot.
especially with Iran, with Daniel
Yeah.
speaks about in Daniel 10 about the Prince of Persia. David, I'm going to switch gears real quick about Macron. Israel and nations. He is mulling over a Palestinian state recognition. He wants to get it done. We have the head of parliament or the head of their Congress, what we call the parliament. He's very anti-Israel, wants to move ahead and do this. They could recognize it as early as June, which is only a few days away.
Yeah.
Trump rejects it. He says, nope, not going to happen under our watch, and wants our UN ambassador to deal with that. At the same time, Macron's got some issues, got some internal issues, got some marital issues. I mean, is he fighting in public? I mean, she's got a great right hook, or
Yeah,
maybe he has a great right hook. Anyway, go to you,
and
David.
the left's follow up. Yeah, too. So yeah, watching the news over here, you would think there's more than just France mulling over recognizing Palestine as a second state, which we know a second state is not going to work. It hasn't worked. Oslo promised it, but they rejected it. They don't
They
want
walked
it.
away. They walked away from the deal,
Getting 99% of what they wanted. They walked away.
which was
Arab-
crazy, David. I didn't even understand how Israel would have even offered that. It was even Bill Clinton was shocked. Remember what Bill Clinton said? I didn't think they were gonna. I didn't think
Well,
Omar was gonna do it.
probably because Israel knows their enemy. They know they can't agree. There is only one solution for the Israeli question, from the river to the sea. That's it. There's no other choice for Islam, because their whole thing is that the whole world has to come under subjection for the 13th Mahdi to come back.
Yes.
So they both know it. Everyone knows it, but everyone denies it. It's just the naivety of the EU not understanding this, but then they're deceived.
Yeah.
They're deceived by the God of the age that has blinded them to truth. When you can see evil is good and good is evil, and this is the way the world is operating right now. And Christians should be praying for the peace, inquiring into the peace of Jerusalem, because it's always first the Saturday people, then the Sunday people. And we're seeing, I think we're going to talk later about the coming persecution of Christians. Listen, it's knocking at the door, and Israel knows their enemy. There'll never be peace with Islam.
Mm. To your point, David, about the Palestinian state, I'm going to go to Jay real quick. Jay, it just seems like although the world is going, no, 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 Israel, you can't defend yourself. You have to give a Palestinian state. What Israel's doing is quite interesting. They're moving ahead to support the sovereignty of Judea and Samaria, which is the biblical name of the West Bank, or what the world calls it today, the West Bank. And this was in the Knesset. And that brought a lot of nations to lose their mind. They literally melted faces because, on the one hand, they're angry at Israel for blocking the Gaza aid, which we already talked about that, how silly that idea was. They called it a humanitarian response, at least what Macron said. But Israel just approved 22 settlements, contiguous Jewish presence in Judea and Samaria. We never went there. We were supposed to go. We never did. Would love to go, and perhaps maybe another time. But they are moving forward with 22 settlements. It's brought the ire of so many nations, including France, including many in Europe, who are saying this can happen. You can't block Gaza aid, and you can have your land back because it belongs to someone else. And they are going to sanction Israel economically, trades. This is Britain, this is France, this is the EU, this is Canada. We'll get to Canada in a moment. But Jay, your thoughts? It's moving rapidly, not just about the rejection of the Palestinian state, but now moving into Judea and Samaria.
Yep.
It's just unfortunately, it's an escalation of what's supposed to happen. At some point, we really need to come to the conclusion that, you know, Israel has a right to their ancestral land, and there are plenty of places where we can resettle the Palestinians, where they would be taken care of well. In fact, Europe has this great social welfare net. They get free healthcare, they get free housing, and they've got a lot of empty land because I hear that not a lot of Europeans are actually having children, so they have massive Islamic immigration. So, you know, there's all this opportunity. They could have a wonderful place to worship, to live in peace, to have safety for their children. I don't understand the need for them to stay in that land, especially Samaria.
Especially,
and on top of that, Jay and Marco, listen, even the Quran says that the land belongs to the people of Moses. The Quran says it, you know, and Judea, Samaria, you have the Oaks of Mamre, you have the place where the ark rested, Shiloh. You have Jacob's Well. You have all these places.
Yeah.
Mount of Blessing, Mountain of Curse. Yep. Those are all Jewish places where you go there, and I've been there. I've been to all those places. I picked up antiquities from there, and that were Jewish, you know. So it belongs to the Jews. It is the Jews. It's going to end up in the Jews.
Yeah.
There's going to be a fight over it, unfortunately.
There are 530,000 Jewish people that live in Judea and Samaria as of January 1st, 2025. So approximately 5.5% of the Jewish population live there. So nearly 70% of Israeli citizens want Jerusalem to extend its full sovereignty, meaning the Knesset to extend its full sovereignty over that disputed territory, which has been disputed since the 67 war, the 73 war. It's been on and on from the 80s to the 90s. Every president has had to deal with it. And it looks like, by the words of the cabinet and people that Trump put in place, Marco Rubio, even Elise Stefanik was supposed to be the ambassador to the UN, but the ambassador to Israel, Huckabee, they all call it Judea and Samaria as a biblical, the biblical right of the land to the Jewish people. Even Pete Hegseth, you know, the defense secretary. So, David, we'll go to you. I don't think the U.S. is going to stand against this move, which means are we moving into a prophetic peace right here? Because this is really the prophetic word of God coming true of Israel dwelling again in the mountains of Israel, the heart of Israel.
Well, the Bible said it would happen. It's going to happen. And it's going to be a stumbling block, and the world does not want it. The spirit of the age is guiding people to war against Israel, to war against this cup of trembling, this heavy stone that they're going to be fighting over. And it's being set up, and I'm thankful we're on the right side. But here
We're on the side of Jesus. Amen.
that's
On the
right.
side of
And the
Jesus.
people, but it's it is the case that Jacob and you guys are making in the film. This time is different.
Yeah,
And this is another fulfillment of that you
Yeah.
should be looking and saying, wow, okay, it's being fulfilled in our day.
Yeah, absolutely. Think of the words of the prophets, where Zechariah chapter 12 speaks of there would be a siege around Judea. Now, in my understanding of scripture is that could not have happened in back in 1800s, 1900s, because there was no Jews in a sense of holding sovereignty of that area. It belonged to the Ottoman Empire. Then it became, obviously, Israel became a sovereign state, but there was that dispute, and the Jews didn't live there until recently, until the last 30, 40 years. Obviously, 530,000 live there now. But it's not sovereign of that. They don't have sovereignty over the West Bank, as they call it. Now they're moving to 22 more settlements in there. It's going to double the population, and people want to move there. At the same time, the prophet Zechariah, the prophet Ezekiel saw that there will be nations who will want that, the mountains of Israel. Ezekiel 35, they want that, and they desire it for themselves to have another nation, they said in Ezekiel 35. And of course, the words of our Lord. And this is the probably the critical part of it is when it says regarding the abomination of desolation, those who are in Judea flee, right? Why? It's the abomination of desolation. So he did point out the Jews would be in Judea for sure.
Yeah.
When the abomination of desolation is set up. Anyway, your thoughts on that? Because I think we're moving into a very, very specific prophecy here that we can go chapter and verse. Anybody that wants to see it, you can go to those verses and see it for yourself.
Go ahead, Jay.
I cannot imagine in my lifetime where there was potential for the Jews to be able to peacefully visit some of the sites in the West Bank. But with these new settlements, it might happen.
We can go, Jay. We can go.
There was so much red tape and so many things we had to do. But with these new settlements, a lot of that might be alleviated. So it's a different world. And the question is will that militarize the current occupants of the West Bank?
There's quite a bit of them there. Yeah.
There is. So I'm just wondering what these new settlements will do. Because it seems like almost forgive me for saying this, but it's almost like a provocation from the Knesset to the West Bank saying, come and get us.
Do it.
So everybody's not going to be happy?
No, they're already not happy.
They're very angry about that.
You guys remember the Obama and Hillary days where they were so against it. This is quite interesting. They were so against it. In fact, Hillary had this policy, it was Hillary and Obama, that there was no natural growth. There should be no natural growth in the West Bank for Jews, meaning that if a Jew was born, a Jew either had to die or leave. So they would not allow any natural growth of Judea and Samaria, the West Bank. That has changed completely. Obviously, this administration has a different perspective on it, but you could see, and this is what's going to be interesting, isn't it? If the elections go the opposite way over the next 4 years, David, you would see maybe because the Democratic Party has gone completely full senile, anti-Semitic, with no recognition of even their own Jewish people within the party. Would they block this? Because this is, they stood against East Jerusalem annexation. They stood against anything in the Golan Heights. They stood against the West Bank, as we talked about. Could this happen again?
Well, because the Bible says all nations will come against them. So ultimately, I believe we'll turn. God forbid it won't be us in 2 years.
Yeah.
But I think all of those who have eyes to see is that God's hand here is the whole world is being moved into position to fulfill his word.
Yeah. And it's moving fast. Yeah.
And it's moving fast. And look, get your less short on sins. God's coming soon.
Yeah. So I think we're almost hit it. Did we hit an hour yet, Davey? I think we hit an hour already in our
yes, we've just passed the hour mark. Yeah.
All right. So if you are on Rumble, or if you're going to switch to Rumble on Backstage, send us the questions. We'll take questions in today for David Lister. In the meantime, we're going to pivot to another subject just because we hit an hour. Got to go quick.
Oh, one thing I was just going to mention too is just kind of like because my mind can't help going there. We had October 7th a couple of years ago. What happened there? But we have got with the release of the terrorists and all the rest of it as part of the negotiations and the deals, they're setting up shop basically in areas of Judea and Samaria. They're setting up terrorist hotbeds there. So I guess can't rule out the what do you call it? That they could cause problems and have what do you call it, like October 7th style attacks. They could be planning them. They could come through to fruition where Israel may actually have to take action and go in. And like they went into Gaza, they may actually have to go in there and take over areas of that. Again, I cannot rule that kind of out, that scenario out in my mind. And that way it may come back under some kind of Israeli control or joint Israeli control.
Yeah, perhaps. I mean, we almost had the coordinated attacks from the north and as well as the Hamas on October 7th. Let me switch over to Ukraine and Russia real quick because this is, again, another war, another peace deal that needs to happen. Trump is very upset with Putin. He's very upset with Zelensky. It seems like these two don't want any peace deals, I guess, until, if Hamas is until the last Gazan dies. I guess Europe is in the business of until the last Ukrainian dies. And Trump is very upset with Putin. He doesn't know what's wrong with them. He won't he doesn't want to deal with the peace deals. Germany is moving ahead to thwart any kind of plan for peace. And he's given, I guess they're giving him some missiles, some German missiles, Taurus missiles into Ukraine for Ukraine, which have been warned if they're used against Moscow. This could be an all-out war, more than it is already. Over 1 million people have died. David Lister, we'll go to you. What is wrong with Germany? And do they literally want any peace, or they just want more? I don't want to call their prime minister a drug dealer, but by the looks of it, there's some involvement in that. So, but anyway, go ahead, David.
Yeah, there's little things on the table, stuff like that. But I always think of Churchill's message about Germany, a Hun is a Hun is a Hun, and they always seem to be getting themselves in war. And people are becoming hardened in their positions throughout the world. Okay, we're seeing a lot of Western Europe seems to want to support Ukraine and get in and capture that area, maybe even make them part of the NATO agreement, which would be crazy because if we did that, then Russia would have every reason, Putin has blamed America for causing a coup there in Ukraine, and that he feels justified because we did our deep state did a coup, installed a new man in the position, a little man, but and so they're they're pretty mad about it. But they're grabbing all the land they can. They know that Ukraine cannot force them out. And even Trump is kind of saying the same thing to Zelensky. He says, you're trying to fight a war you can't win. You only go to war when you know you can win. But he's certainly going to Germany, trying, let's get in the war. You guys help me, give me everything that will drag the whole world into a war.
Yeah.
And they want to go along with it. But just like Daniel says, that Europe is going to be divided. The 10 toes, we've got Eastern Bloc of the EU does not want to go into this,
Right.
and
And this is the crazy thing, David. It's like a tyranny scheme of, you got Slovakia, you got Hungary, Viktor Orban and Robert Fico. They don't want war. They want peace. They want to keep their oil. They want some prosperity in their economies. They've suffered so much from the days of communism, and it just falls into another tyranny from communism to the EU, and Germany threatens them.
Yep, and also they're dividing over the like you talked about the oil. They're dividing over the climate scam. It's all becoming pretty out in the open there that this man-made climate change is just a moneymaker for those that got into the stocks early.
Yeah. Those that make it early make the money.
Yeah, and the wind power are the only place that's making money are the oil companies that get subsidized for the wind power to subsidize electricity for their pumps from the Permian Basin, pumping oil. So good for them.
Yeah.
Pump that oil, baby.
Pump that up. Jay, I want to go to you real quick. It seems like Trump has given a deadline of June 2nd. He gave a deadline to the Iranians. Now he's giving a deadline to Putin to say, hey, come to the table. And they sort of set up a deal by June 2nd, but he's giving them 2 weeks, which is in that scope of the 2 weeks they're going to meet. Do you think there'll be any progress in that, or are we going into the last Ukrainian like Hamas is doing with the Gazans?
I think Mr. Trump needs to help get his European allies on a choker chain. I think until the Europe stops instigating the war, perpetuating the war, there will be no talks in good faith. And I think Putin's not an idiot. He knows that. And when you have Germany giving arms and weapons to the Ukrainians, when you have the rest of Europe ready to throw in with Ukraine to continue the war, how can the United States control people that are not directly under his? There needs to be some kind of consensus for there to be peace. And when you have two factions operating, one is pushing for war, it's like a good cop, bad cop situation. So you must get your allies, Mr. Trump, under control, and you must carry a stick if you need to. They need to be economically hurt if they don't stop the provocation.
Yeah. When J.D. Vance went to speak in Germany, and they all hated him because he spoke truthfully. And the sad part is, and I'm going to go to Davey in a minute, even some Christians didn't like what J.D. Vance said because, he's too harsh. But is it enough is enough? I mean, the rhetoric doesn't work with Europe. They're post-Christian, neo-pagan, and Islamic now. It doesn't work with them. So this time, maybe some tough talk to some real issues here. Because this is the biggest war since World War II in continental Europe, the biggest war and the biggest amount of people that have been lost. I mean, it's just on and on. Davey, we'll go to you. Does it seem like even though people do want to talk peace, but there is no peace? It's just war after war, and the rumors of war continue. And at some point, it's going to turn into, it's already a hot war, but it's going to be more nations involved.
Yeah, I'm pretty convinced they love the war. They want the war. They talk peace, but if you look at it, it's kind of crazy. When we were doing the pre-show, I was thinking in my head, it's kind of like I can't remember who we were talking about, but I was thinking, oh yeah, I bet you they'll end up getting like a Nobel Peace Prize, because it always seems to be these warmongers who get these peace prizes. Yet they're the biggest warmongers out there.
Yeah, the biggest butchers get the prize.
Yep.
Remember Arafat got
Oh yeah,
he got
the
Peace
Pope. The
Prize.
Pope gave him the what is his name? The current one right now. The Abbas.
Bob?
He's got the Abbas got the
Yeah.
Pope Francis gave him an award for it was the Golden Angel Peace Award or something like that. It's just crazy. Anyway, David, back to you. I'm sorry.
But it's kind of like it's kind of goes part and parcel with that kind of woe to those who call good evil and evil good, because it kind of seems like those who are truly seeking peace, those who are trying to do everything they can in their power to pursue peace, they're the ones who get demonized. They're the ones who are, they're pointed out as the warmongers, but they're the ones who are truly seeking peace. But the ones who are all busy talking about peace, they're the real warmongers. It's kind of like that's kind of the way I see it at the moment. It's kind of like, yeah, Trump's always pointed out, oh, he's a warmonger, like the hungry guy. Yeah, he's a warmonger, but oh no, Zelensky's the peacemaker, and all this kind of stuff. It does your head in. It really is. It's like living in topsy-turvy land.
Isn't Frederick Merz, Davey? He's from the Christian Democratic Union of Germany, the CDU. There's nothing Christian about it. I mean, he's supposed to be. He claims to be, but it's just war after war, threatening other nations, tyranny, controlling them, money, on and on. I don't get Germany, honestly. I mean, I love the people. We have some believers, wonderful believers in Germany. They love the Lord. They love us, and we get along really well. But the government and its policies, it's gone.
Unfortunately, I think a lot of Europe's been lost for quite some time now. It's kind of like I loved France when I first visited there in 1999, but I went back, I think it was 2007, and I couldn't believe the change in 8 years, and I basically vowed I'd never set foot back in the country again. And, and it was the same with Germany. Germany was probably not as noticeable. The difference in France was just kind of like, it was shocking. It was in your face shocking.
Yeah. David Lister, I'm going to you real quick. I remember the mid-90s, early mid-90s. We had believers from different parts of Germany, Siegen, I forget the other name of the place, Siegen for sure, Stuttgart, solid believers, wonderful. They love freedom. The nation was wonderful. They loved the republic. It turned left really quick after the European Union stepped into power in the year 2000 with the euro. But Germany has been sort of this interesting place in world history where it's been punished severely by the nations. They divided it for many years, East and West. They took away the land. Obviously, they felt Germany did not learn the lesson after World War I. They had some dictatorships, anti-Semitic, anti-Christian. I mean, there's a spirit there within Europe, and it's sort of been back since the Merkel days, hasn't it? And now they're back to becoming anti-Christian and very anti-Semitic, even though many horrible things happened there during World War II. But what's your take on Germany specifically? We talk about overall Europe, but Germany, it's sort of leading the charge.
Yeah. Now we're talking about the Christian Crusader Party, right? The new Crusade.
Yeah.
They're I remember being in Greece in the year 2000 and talking to some Muslim guys and some German guys. They were all from Germany, and I told them what would happen to their country because they had started inviting more and more Muslims to come there. And what I told them, they couldn't believe them. I said, "Look, you were born." I told the one Muslim guy, I said, "You were born there, but you're different." Because you don't think the way these outsiders come. These are ones that will change your nation. And I said, eventually, your friend here you're traveling with, I said, you will be required to kill him because he's a Christian. And they said, no, this cannot be. Germany is not like it. Well, they're becoming what they've always been. They're going back to their war state. They just seem to love war and the father of death because They had the Reformation, but they've thrown that away, and now the whole world is moving into two camps: those that honor the father of death, and those that love and honor the father of life. And it's so apparent here, and they've invited the invasion of their own country, Israel, and also the rest of the EU is bringing this in, and we see what's happening in England. You see what's happening in France by Islam. When you have an Islamic migration, you're going to end up with them. I was looking at the statistics on birth rates in Europe, and some of the European places are not even one.
Wow.
Replaced 1-to-1.
Yeah.
It's less, but every place in Europe is, as far as the white part, is down to birth rates. They're not going to be able to replace it. So the only way to do it is by Islam. And Islam says, we're going to have the babies, and they're saying, we're going to take over your country. And they say it arrogantly, but they're doing it.
Yeah.
And
they say, demographics is destiny. And there's really it takes a long time to change that pattern of demographics when you have an older generation with no children coming behind them. And Jay, I'm going to go to you. The home of Luther, the first German Bible even preceded the English Bible. Institutions, theology, great stuff, but it soon turned against the Lord, and it went to liberal theology and eventually into war. You came from a Lutheran background, so you have a little bit more say on Luther than a lot of people that I know. Your thoughts on how far Germany has swung? I mean, there's still believers there, some Christian churches there for sure.
Absolutely.
Becoming the minority.
Well, it's a historical problem, because Germany is the only country within Europe that was never Romanized. They kept their language, they kept their heritage. And in fact, in the German mind of 1940s, they perceived themselves as God's chosen people. We resisted the Romans. We were military victorious. And that is why the Jews were such an ideological threat to Germany that they had to destroy them. No, the Aryans are the chosen people, not the Jews. That was their whole idea. Now, in this in current history, something fascinating has occurred that I've never seen. They're inviting the Romans to come over the Rhine. They're saying, please settle. We have wonderful pretzels. We have great. Oh wait, you don't drink beer. You don't eat Wiener Schnitzel either. It's insane because, historically speaking, Germany is so proud of their culture and so proud of the history of their people and their industrialists. Talk about hardworking people and intelligent people. Incredible. Brilliant.
Yeah.
But yet today they're committing cultural suicide.
Yeah. I remember there was a point where even Roosevelt was thinking how, after World War II, after the German surrender, how they're going to, punish Germany. And they actually thought of just not making it a nation, just making it open land and have other people move from other nations and just basically populate that. And I think it was one of his advisors says, no, just divide it. Because we need to maintain the culture, the German culture. But Jay, to your point, they have done what people thought they were going to do to Germany. They just basically no borders, open land, and have people from other nations move in and take over.
Yep. And it is a huge shame. It's a huge shame for all of Europe, because if you think about it, historically speaking, the Crusades brought science, algebra, culture to Europe. And then Europe built what we know as the Renaissance. And now it's almost a degeneration of Europe back to the Dark Ages.
To the Dark Ages, yeah, and literally the Dark Ages because they want to go to windmills and they want to go to sunlight, electricity, and it's causing a lot of problems economically. David Lister, I'm going to go to you on the economic side of things because Germany's in trouble, Canada's in trouble. They got Carney with the new Green Deal that they want to pass carbon taxes and all that. By the way, the King of England was there, if you wanted to call him that. There's people that wouldn't call him that, King Charles. And well, of course, he was castigating Americans. He says because Americans are just sort of a colonizing, sort of Trump-like figure who telling the world what to do and controlling the world. Well, at the same time, he belongs to an organization that wants to control the world. But anyway, my point is, and he was praising the natives of Canada, not the Canadian people, but the ones that came before the Canadians came over or the Europeans came over. They were warlike.
Land.
Yeah. The indigenous people. He castigated Israel and all this stuff. He had to make his rounds, but they're in trouble. Europe's in trouble. Canada's in trouble, I guess, to the same point that England's in trouble as well. Japan's in trouble, the bond sell-off. Give us an overall picture of the world economy, then we'll get into the U.S. as we drill down a little bit more.
Yeah. Well, instability is everywhere. And like you said, Japan had hoped that central bank would intervene. People were wanting China to please give us more money.
Yeah.
We're going begging to China, but they're tightening. They're having their own troubles there, and so they don't really have money to lend. They own a debt, but they owe America $5 trillion in sovereign debt from China before the war, before the communism. So, and that has to be repaid in gold. But whether we'll get it, I don't know. It's instability everywhere. We're seeing that the people are thinking the only way out is war, and that they can then continue this spending on war. And the only people going to make money on this are the people that supply the weapons. But in the end, that has to be all borrowed. It's like when Solomon says, invest, put your money in 7 baskets, sort of. Yeah. Put your money where the peacemakers are with the supplying the weapons, So, but money has got to go somewhere. And so the markets are making money. The corporations are making money, but like I said, it's the bonds, and who would that affect? Well, with bonds, generally you have like your teachers' funds, your policemen's funds. They often hold a lot of bonds. Because they're stable and they pay their notes and they pay them on time and they pay generally a fixed amount so that you can increase your pensions over the year. So there is concern that this could collapse. But when you look at America, because of Trump's deals, we've got $10 trillion pouring into America to build factories, to build all sorts of new manufacturing and near source a lot of things. And people see the instability in China and other places. And so they're wanting to get their corporations back here, and the tariffs are forcing this. So within a couple of years, we'll see a lot of jobs pouring into America. But the question is, does it all come unraveled before this happens? But the money is pouring in. Corporations made money last quarter, so they're looking good. And actually, there's the corporate bonds that people are investing in.
People can get corporate bonds.
Bonds.
It looks like investors are losing patience with the other bonds, right? They don't want these massive deficits, so they're shifting over. And you got, the debt is just unbelievable. But Japan has been in this kind of circle for a long time now. They're raising
since the 70s.
Yeah,
they've never been able to get out.
Yeah, and maybe enough is enough, but it does affect other markets. And is that a time? Is it a timepiece, David, where what's going on in Japan is going to happen in the U.S., is going to happen to Europe, is going to happen to other nations? The debt is so massive. What do you do?
Well, Trump's philosophy is, well, the bill that's in the House that's going to add $2 trillion and 10 trillion over the long run is is the plan that came out of the House. But Trump is hoping that, like last time, even though they borrowed more money, the economy grew very fast. People went to work and taxes increased to cover it. That's the plan. Okay, we'll expand, put everybody to work, but we're at near 100%. We're near complete employment. We're at 4-something%, and there's always going to be businesses closing and people rotating out in and out of jobs. But we have so many people on welfare, so many people on social welfare, such as Social Security, as I am, and thank everybody for paying for that for me. So
You're welcome.
Yeah, it's welcome. And we could personalize it because I think it's down 2 or 3 to 1. So Jay, Marco, my appreciation.
Thanks. Yeah.
But so can we afford this? And so if we can get rid of the $2 trillion in welfare going overseas, that should through Medicare would be one way to bring some money back. But our government hasn't codified these DOGE cuts. They're not making any of these cuts. They're not making this. And you kind of start wondering whether the corruption is so deep among the politicians, they're going to keep the money flowing. But then there's guys in the House that don't want this bill to go through. But the House the House has passed it, but the Senate is now supposed to sit down and start making some cuts, bringing some sanity. That's always the way the Senate has worked, is the hotbed House throws out things and then cooler heads prevail. But I'm over there seeing Graham going over to, talking war. So he likes a bigger budget. So some of the Republicans want more money for this, more money for that, so to keep it rolling. So will they provide an answer and do some sanity and cut some of this and try to balance the budget as well? Because the money that's flowing into America, $10 trillion, this is outside money. This is good. This will put people to work. We'll probably have to use some of the, bring some people in within H-1B1 visas to manufacture all these things. And so it's a crazy world right now. Does it crash? Does it stay? May God bless America. I don't know that I have an answer. I've never seen it like this, but and Trump's working with all these countries to stabilize it. But as I've been overseas, a lot of people are making deals with other countries to expand. Vietnam is making deals, and Indonesia is making deals with other people to create a marketplace for products outside of the United States. But the problem is we're the world's biggest consumer.
Yeah.
The rest of the world doesn't have that type of money. Even if you make a deal with Indonesia, those consumers don't have a lot of wealth. Even if they go to Vietnam. Now, Vietnam is actually doing pretty well. I mean, they're some of the other countries, and Thailand, so many corporations there from around the world are making things, and their people are getting richer, but they still don't have money because the average guy here in Thailand is only making about $10 a day.
$10 a day, yeah.
Consume a lot of goods. They have good, cheap goods here, but you're seeing like a lot of, like, I accidentally stepped into the wrong mall the other. I was looking for something else for a part for our a SIM card. That's what I was looking for. but I was stepped into a high-end mall that you would have saw on Beverly Hills or, you know, out that way. But this place was so rich. So there is a lot of wealth in Thailand, but not spread among the average worker. The average worker in the hotels and the vast majority of the workers are still making $10 an hour.
Yeah.
10 bucks a day, sorry. You
10
know,
bucks a day. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
Um,
So
last
it's
subject for the day. I wanted to switch gears from economy, war, to something that I think all believers that are watching and even those that are not believers are looking from the outside in, have to admit that there is this spirit of persecution in the world, and the main target is Christians and Jews. We talked about the anti-Semitism quite extensively here, and we'll wrap that in together with this. But a recent article was talking about France, how in Europe it's switched to Christian phobia. We've heard of Islamophobia, and is well, that's not really the case because that's a misnomer. The real case is Christian phobia, meaning that there is a hatred toward Christianity in Europe and in France specifically. Now they do call it Christian phobia. They are referring to the Catholic Church. I just want to make sure that that's clear. That Catholic country like France, at least used to be, are being attacked all the time. There's clergy priests that are being killed, churches that are being torched, and obviously it comes from the religion of peace most of the time. And it is motivated in France to quite an extent that there is an increase in anti-Semitism and anti-Christian attacks quite a bit. And so let's start there before we move into America. David, we talked about Europe. We'll go to you first, and we'll go to Jay, and then Davey. We talked about Europe reaching that point, especially Germany. Now we're talking about the whole continent, specifically France, with the Islamic invasion. Where do you see it? Where do you see it going?
well, true Christianity, God's remnant, is of course just that, a remnant everywhere. Okay, the amazing amount of false teachers around the world has contributed to the inability of the church to hold back evil forces, and also the forces that are rising. Of course, you called rightly the religion of peace. They are very organized, highly subsidized, and they know how to push forth their agenda, and they have plenty of money behind them. And money moves people, especially politicians, from one court to another court. It makes for strange bedfellows. And so you're seeing it come in that Christians are being labeled now as right wingers or far right activists and stuff like this, because we hold to, imagine this, that the truth is the truth, and when you say something that's truthful that doesn't fit the narrative, then you have to be hated. And we know this. You'll be hated for my sake, Jesus said. So this is going to increase, and Christians are going to be persecuted, and it's coming at an accelerated rate. And so I never thought I'd see it in my day from 40 years ago, but it seems like it's coming, and it's coming. We have liberty now in America, but for how long?
Yeah, Jay, over to you.
I mean, a third of the Christian world believes in replacement theology. That's a third of Christians believe that they are the replacement for Israel, and that you don't need to worry about the Jews anymore. It's all about the church. Well, guess what happens when you do that? You are now the main target of the rest of the world to be persecuted. So it's a natural evolution of what you're propagating. And it also it's exactly to the point of, I will bless those that bless you, I will curse those that curse you. The Catholic Church has been teaching replacement theology practically since its inception.
Yeah, they're the new Israel.
Yeah, and they're just reaping what they've sown.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Davey,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts about Europe?
About Europe or about the Christian persecution, that kind of thing in particular, or
Yeah, we're still talking about persecution, but the persecution in Europe.
yeah, I think look, it's only going to get worse. It's I think it goes back to what I was talking about before too. Um, they want to force their worldview on there. And I think this is a sign of the times too. I think it shows you how close to the end of the age we're getting. It's because things aren't even becoming rational anymore. They suppress the truth in unrighteousness. And look, cannot. The truth will always come out. The truth will always surface. I always remember that illustration you mentioned when you taught on Romans many years ago about chucking a whole heap of ping pong balls in a tub of water and having to. It takes effort to keep them suppressed. Eventually,
Yes.
you can't hold them all down. The truths are going to surface. The truth is always going to surface. But Christians and the Jewish people, we are reminders to the world that God does exist. There is a God. There is a day of judgment, and judgment is coming. They don't want to know that judgment is coming. They want to push their version of utopia. Christians are the peacemakers. We are peacemakers. We're called to be peacemakers. We have the Prince of Peace. We are to reflect that. Yet we're being the ones sort of blamed and targeted. Again, it goes back to that woe to those who call good evil and evil good.
Yeah.
They're always going to do that, but it's so that they can do every debaucherous thing under the sun that they want to do. Then, and I think this is where it's becoming as it gets closer to the end of the age, people are going to be more insane than ever, more desperate. It's like a wounded animal that's dying. It's kind of like a wounded lion. Most dangerous when it's wounded, on the rampage, irrational, and that's what people are becoming like nowadays. And we're going to see this. I think people are becoming a lot more demonically influenced. So their behavior, there's a lot more of that going on. But yeah, Christians and Jews are always going to be targeted because they're a reminder that there is a God, truth is real, you cannot deny truth. There is a judgment day, and judgment day is coming. Their time is short, so they're gonna try and silence us. They're going to try and shut us down each and every single way, but they're not going to succeed. The truth will out. And they're getting more and more desperate as their time grows short because they know their judgment day is coming.
Yeah, no doubt.
To Davey's point, I just want to make a real quick comment. Last night I was studying, and what happens when salt loses its saltiness? It no longer preserves a fallen world. And what is it good for? It's to be trampled on. And that's what you're seeing. You're seeing the salt lose its saltiness, and the world is trampling on it. The world is Europe. It is the culture of death. It is the culture of Islam. That is the world, and it is ruled by the prince of this world.
Yeah.
Well, most Americans would say, well, that is in Europe, that's in the Middle East. I would like to say to believers, I said, be careful when you say that, because persecution is here in America. I will give you some examples. The murder of the two Israeli, they were staffers of the embassy. They were diplomats, so to speak, in Washington, D.C. Murder, completely cold-blood murder, shot Yaron and Sarah. And Yaron was a believer. Sarah's a believer in the God of Israel, the Lord Jesus. And what's interesting about that, when you read the reports, and I sent it to Davey and Jay, what was interesting is the fact that it is the Elias Rodriguez emptied his gun after shooting them. I mean, I don't know how many rounds he had left. She was trying to sort of escape because she survived the first shot, but she was completely After that, she was completely murdered, emptied his gun on her. And this is nothing's been done about it. I mean, at this point, thank God that they're going to try him for perhaps murder, first degree murder. But, not many people complained about it. It almost like it went unnoticed. It went unnoticed. But that's just one incident. I'm going to talk about the other incident that it's maybe soon to be Summer of Love 2.0. David, listen, we'll go to you. What happened in Seattle this week, and Jacob talked about it in his hot take. He didn't go into a lot of details, but I'll give you some of the details here. It was basically a festival, a Christian festival, a lot of believers going there. And this was in Seattle. This was a place where, if you're going to call them Bolsheviks, I guess that's what you would call them now. But this is the place of Antifa. This is the place of, they used to have what the autonomous zone called Chaz during the lockdowns. And Christians went there, and Christians were attacked at this park because they brought worship, they brought prayer, they brought believers that were ex-homosexuals, ex-trans, and they gave their testimony. And it was a wonderful atmosphere of prayer, worship. And I'm not saying every single person there was a Christian, there was non-Christians as well there, but they were attacked by Antifa. And what ensued was a terrible, terrible thing. Cops were injured. 23 people were arrested. Christians were attacked. We watched some of that video. It's just incredible, the hatred of Antifa and some of these groups that were there going after Christians because they didn't like the message that was being shared. David, I'll go to you.
Yeah, because the message is a message of redemption and of life, and that you can quit sinning. If if you're homosexual, you can leave and become not practice that sin anymore. You can if you transition, you can detransition. This is against everything that they stand for, the perversion of our culture through homosexuality and transgenderism and all these lies. And so for them to they have to stamp it out early. And this is like the way the devil always works. When it's easier to destroy a lamb than it is a sheep. So they went right after this new thing because they don't want it growing into a bigger thing. Other Christians and coming out and having parades and having celebrations of life. Well, and now Christians know, well, if you have one of these celebrations, well, you're going to be visited and probably have troubles. And this is the thought they're trying to invoke. You had Black Lives Matter there, others all came together to try to stomp it out right away. So hopefully we'll have some actions that will, by Christians, that will go ahead and do this. But at the end of the day, there's going to be persecution. And to add to Davey and Jay's point, as far as persecution, is at the end, God is going to put his believers in front of judges and kings to give them the message that he will give them in that hour. So persecution is coming, and Christians should be ready for it. It's just those believers are now with Jesus. That young couple are with Jesus. So they didn't expect it, but now they're with him. So
what strikes me so much about that video that we watched in the Pacific Northwest, where you had Antifa and Black Lives Matter basically trying to prevent two ex-transsexuals who are now converted to Christianity. They wanted to speak, and they were opposing them. Now, this is indicative of the left, and this is indicative of the cultural norms of society. They have complained for 40 years, how dare you put us in the closet? We're going to come out. We're going to proclaim what we are. We're going to show you our identity. We have the right to do that. Yet those two people that wanted to proclaim their Christianity, they want to put them in a closet. And that's what you're seeing worldwide. They want Christians and Jews in the closet. They want us to be afraid that we hide like they felt they needed to hide during the 60s and the 70s and the 50s.
Yeah.
That's how it has been completely just turned on its head. The world is upside down.
Yeah.
It's morally, it's upside down, and they want to display depravity, debauchery, and they want morality, faith to go into the closet.
Yep.
That's where we're at.
I totally agree. And their own hypocrisy should be self-evident to all, because it's kind of like they're all about, freedom of choice. You can choose whoever you love, but it's only if you're doing it in a depraved fashion. Say you've been in that lifestyle, you've repented, and now you want to live a proper relationship. No, you're not allowed to do that. You don't have the choice to do that, or you're not allowed to say. So it's that double standard. Their own hypocrisy should be self-evident to all.
Yeah, the interesting thing about it, if you read some of the details of what happened, so this is a Cal Anderson Park. It's well known in Seattle for, it actually is named after one of the LGBT activists at one point, and it was named after him. So all kinds of things go on at that park. It was the area of Chaz in the autonomous zone. And it sounded like believers were getting a permit, but they couldn't get it in a specific park that they wanted to do it in. And so the city said, well, why don't you get this other park, Cal Anderson Park? And some of the organizers were like, okay, we'll do it there. That's where you want us to be, knowing quite well what that park was all about. And that was pretty astonishing to me that they gave him this opportunity to present, the gospel and people there. And there were some people that were not believers. There's some people with really strange views, but I'm just referring to the fact of those who wanted to pray, worship, and give their testimony and glorify Christ. And David, I'm going to go back to you. They were doing things for the community, giving haircuts, feeding people, helping people, which was, I think that was a very liberal idea, wasn't it? And they were there to also protest against the transsexualization of children and what the mayor of Seattle is all about. And at the end of the day, even after they were attacked and by the gangs, by the Antifa gangs, Black Lives Matter gangs, the mayor turns and says, well, it's the Christians' fault for antagonizing them and provoking them. Very similar to what they do to Jews. Right? Go ahead.
How dare you try to help people, give them haircuts, feed them, help them to get jobs. How evil of you. This is the thinking. And I mean, David, you're making it hyper. No, but it is. This is what they were doing. They see them, part of the liberal philosophy is that they see them having to put down other people because they want to be seen as the morally good and the morally righteous and understanding of all people. And for someone to expose them for what they really are.
Yeah.
Really are, it can't be had, and so now you kick in your government and you get them to start standing against the Christians, and it was their fault. Now you have the narrative and the newspapers, the news, all follow suit. It's a weird world we're living in. Having visited over there in Seattle and having visited in, I have to tell you, the darkest place, I'm not one given to a lot of feelings and things like that. I'm truly not. I've been to places in Utah and stuff like this, occupied by Mormons and stuff. I never on my feelings, but the darkest place I've ever felt was in Salem, Oregon. Every store had kids are allowed to come here, and then we'll send you send them for for being transgender.
Yeah.
Witchcraft. That's so many windows and everything. It was dark for me,
Mm.
Yeah.
So this is the way the world is headed, darkness.
Jay, I'm going to go to you real quick. What can you tell me about the BLM presence there? Erica Williams was there. She's supposed to be a faith leader of the BLM group, right? From North Carolina, coming to Seattle. And what was she doing? Harassing, hitting other believers there. A very far left, violent direction that she's taken, where she was supposed to be this, very freedom loving, peace loving, Black Lives Matter, every lives matter type of individual, but she's definitely a grifter, but she's definitely anti-Christian.
I mean, when you say faith leader, I'm thinking voodoo, hoodoo, witchcraft, Satanism. Which faith is she representing out there, other than, like you say, grifting off of social unrest, the grievance culture, the race baiting? That has been her life, and she's a faith leader. And yeah. I'm sure that if we had a good IRS, they should check into her finances and see where she's been spending her money, and seeing if she's been claiming some exempt statuses. But I want to bring this up real quick. When we talk about, like, what the officials are saying, how the Christians provoked these poor people, you have to understand this is a tactic that was used in Acts 5. If you dare preach your gospel amongst our people, we will kill you. We'll beat you.
Yeah.
And that's what they're saying. But again, Christians should be bold. They should be willing to take the beatings for the sake of the gospel. That's what we're called to do. We should we go into jail. We should flood their jails until it's a problem for them.
The apostles considered it a privilege and an honor to suffer like the Lord Jesus. And we can't say persecution is coming. Persecution is no longer distant. It's very local. And it is propagated by radical groups that have been anti-Christians for a long time, far left ideology, militant homosexuality, LGBT groups, police officers. They're caught in the middle. You can't even count on the fact that, okay, maybe there is some civility and then there's some law and order that can come in. They were attacked. They were attacked by the groups. And it is a spirit of the age. Davey, I'm going to go to you. The spirit of the age, lawlessness, hatred of truth. This is a moment I can go to what Jesus said in Matthew 24, Luke 21, Mark 13, what the apostles talked about, what the book of Revelation talked about, what the church history tells us all about. It's not political. This is a spiritual battle that we have to face.
Yes, and it's becoming more and more evident all the time. I think the battle that's taking place in the heavenlies is manifesting more and more on the earth all the time. And it is a spiritual battle. So, look, always remember the heavy artillery is prayer. Well, we do need to be in prayer for one another, especially for our brothers and sisters who are undergoing persecution. And be the helping hand too, where possible. But you can't trust the law or anything like that. The laws here in this country are becoming more anti-Christian all the time. You can't. I know there was the guy. It's happened to him before. Just holding a Christian sign up in Sydney. He was moved on, escorted out by the police again just a couple of days ago. Yet if you had a Free Palestine flag or sign, no problems. It's double standard. It's double standard at the moment, but we've always got to remember who's in charge, who's allowing it. You cannot suppress the truth forever. The truth is always going to come out. So we just have to stay strong, stay faithful, and keep our eyes on the Lord. And look, he will make a way for us. He will make a way for us. But the world system is in the power of the wicked one, and it's becoming more and more evident.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to go to Jay real quick, and I'll finish with David Lister. Jay, we shouldn't worry about this. Dan Bongino says he's going to get to the bottom of it. The FBI is going to be on top of this. He was not going to allow Christian persecution in America. So let's not worry about this because the FBI is on the case. At least what Kash Patel said that too.
Yeah, the acronym for the FBI should be changed to the Fascist Bureau of Instigation, because that's what they are. They Kash Patel for months said that he's going to walk in day one and get rid of the FBI. Okay, it's a little past day one, and I see the same FBI. It's come out that the FBI had people at January 6th instigating the crowds. That's come out, and still there's no changes to the organization. In fact, now I believe the FBI wants protection from any type of release of their identity if they tried to sway or intimidate witnesses and family for January 6th. These people are fascist SS thugs, and the whole apparatus needs to be dissolved and folded into a different organization. There needs to be a fresh start. Remember Hillary Clinton's reset button? Let's hit that button with the FBI.
Yeah, it's time to do it. David, over to you. Call to action for believers. But before that, I wanted to ask you this. What about those in the church who have for years told us that persecution, will not happen in America before the rapture comes? So, we just need to focus on the rapture, and we just need to focus on that because we don't have to worry about these other things that are going to happen during tribulation periods. And we just need to focus on the blessed hope and not worry about these things. Although I understand I'm not supposed to be worried about persecution and stuff like that, but the reality, it's quite different, isn't it, than what we've been told for so many years in different theological circles?
Yeah, I remember that's my understanding of what was going to happen 40 years ago, in Bible studies. It's been that way throughout. But the reality is that some of my pre-trib friends are altering their positions, starting to get a little more understanding. The ones that are faithful and love Jesus and they know him, they're starting to see they're having some cracks showing. We're even seeing, I don't know if anybody's listened to some of John MacArthur's sayings recently, but it seems like he's changing. He's changing his position on Antichrist. It seems like he's changing as he's getting closer to the end. He's maybe trying to straighten things out. That if the Antichrist shows up and the mark comes, he's changed that position. So there's cracks showing in their theologies concerning this, even for the great John MacArthur. And my friends, I keep telling them, I know they know Jesus Christ and him crucified. They can keep their pre-trib position. I've never wanted to go to war over it, but I just ask questions, and now the cracks are showing. So hopefully people will get ready for what's coming and get closer to the Lord is the best thing that you can do in these last days, is just be ready for whatever comes. And if it's whatever, look, God has put you into this day for this time. Just make sure that you know him and him crucified. And if it's your day, it's your day. If it's not, then keep working and keep spreading the gospel. In fact, here at 5:30, if you want to meet me, we're going to the bus station this morning to hand out tracts after the show. So come on down.
Praise the Lord. So watch and be ready, right? Watch and be ready. There's a spiritual battle. It has to be fought with spiritual warfare. It needs to be spiritual weapons. And more than just a video about Seattle, it's a warning and a prophetic warning in the picture of what is coming and what's already here in the United States. Perhaps we live in a secluded neighborhood and everything seems okay, but the reality is many Christians have been suffering for a long time. Middle East. Then to Europe, you see the UK where it's going, and it's here. So we're called to stand, to speak the truth, right? To shine a light, no matter the cost. So continue to be bold in Christ. So we're going to go to backstage. Bring your questions. David Lister's got the answers. We'll see you in just a few minutes.
Don't hold on to the things of this world, right? And don't look back.
Look up.
All right, backstage is on. Let me just turn off some stuff.
Okay.
Let's see, turning off Memorial TV, Facebook. I think everything else stays. Let me just
All right.
confirm.
You got the questions. Got a few more minutes, and okay.
Yeah, we're gonna go catch up with this guy named Mugabe here. He's
Oh, yeah, I met Mugabe.
yeah.
Yeah.
We're gonna catch up with him and go track this morning when in rush hour over at the bus station. So we got these new tracks from the guys that we met, the new church in this last prison. So
Ready to come back when you guys are.
I'm ready.
So many of our brothers and sisters are spreading the good news of Jesus Christ to this lost world. We are so thankful for your prayers. God has been faithful and has blessed us in so many ways. If you'd like to partner with our efforts abroad and at home, please take a moment to click the link in the description and help us as the Lord leads you. Thank you very much, and God bless.